CRG just released their monthly reports for November and December of last year, and seeing as we have no idea what's coming out in 3.19 yet, I feel like it's a pretty good time to have a look at it, see what they're working on, and possibly speculate on what we might see in the next couple of months. Important to remember that a lot of this work is in lead up to their Christmas break, so some things are a bit of planning for 2023, other things they're just fixing up bugs. Starting off with the AI features team, they mostly just worked on fixing bugs for 3.18. But as we move on to the AI tech teams, we can see that there's a lot of stuff that's going on. One of the cool things that these guys are working on is some more complex navigation tech, including being able to get AI to actually get into ground vehicles and operate them. In addition, also getting AI to be able to use elevators, and trying to work out how to get AI to have perception. This is really important for having kind of like a stealth mechanic where you can go into a bunker and shadows and darkness actually mattering. So I'm very excited to play Hitman inside Star Citizen. In addition, they're working on making AI actually aware of vehicles in their surroundings, which is going to matter a lot for if you rock up against bunkers. And one thing that I think is kind of cool is that AI will be able to see through glass now. But this doesn't mean they're going to shoot at the glass. Apparently it's going to be so that they can visually see you, but recognize that they're going to need to move around a corner to actually get to you. And they're also working on the buddy AI behavior. This is presumably for things like escort quests where you're going to have someone following along with you and you need them to be able to stop, slow down, speed up in relation to whatever the leader is doing. The animation team spent a lot of the last 2 months doing some facial animations and some motion capture stuff. The art characters team spent a lot of work on frontier outfits, as well as working on some stuff in relation to clipping. But as is always the case with monthly reports, the biggest thing that everyone gets really excited for is the art ships section. As you would expect, the Corsair was released in the end of last year, and so they made some finishing touches to that. But in addition, they started on the white box for 2 new vehicles. The next 2 lines are pretty interesting to me as well. They mentioned brainstorming several options for entering or exiting one of the vehicles, which is really strange. Entering and exiting most vehicles is usually either by a ladder, a door, or an elevator. It's possible we might see maybe an alien vehicle with some weird things, I don't know, but it gets me excited. And they said Whitebox began on a new production vehicle. Now this could mean any number of things. They might be in production just in terms of we are producing a vehicle for the game, but I think they might actually be talking a little bit about crafting, because we've been seeing a lot of stuff come into the game recently that is in relation to using resources to make tools. Either way, it's something I'm going to be following closely. The UK team worked on salvage, which makes a lot of sense because we've been seeing hull stripping in 3.18, and a vehicle that people have been very excited for ever since its announcement at SitCon is the Crusader Spirit, which is progressing through the white box phase. The biggest challenge has been ensuring that the escape raft on the VIP variant is fully functional at this early stage so we can avoid extra work in the future. And then, even more, the bulk of white box work was also completed for an unannounced vehicle, and development began on an all-new small ship. What do you think these could be? Let me know in the comments below. Now, they also like to put in these little community things that have happened over the course of the last 2 months, so we're just going to speed through this one. So we had the Cargo Refactor AMA, we had the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, we had the Q&A post for the Drake Cutter and the C8R Pisces, as well as the brand new RSI Galaxy. We also had in December, of course, Luminalia and everything related to that, as well as a bunch of patch watches. The guys that do the community posts are absolutely awesome, and we get a lot of information from them, so thank you. Now we get to the section that I absolutely dread every single monthly report, because it's really hard for me to understand a lot of the stuff that's in this, and that is the engine section. They start off talking about how it was a busy couple of months for the physics team, and how they were working on optimizations as well as bug fixing for 3.18. One thing a lot of people understand and obviously appreciate is the release of Gen 12 Renderer, which is in 3.18 PTU right now. They also did a bunch of work on the volumetric clouds, and some core engine things were done that I truly do not understand. Just try to read this paragraph and it's good stuff, I guess. Basically, overall for engine, better performance, better looking graphics. As long as that's what we're seeing every single month, I'm pretty happy. Some of you may remember that 3.18 was supposed to be the Arena Commander patch, but that's been pushed back. Well, that also means that there's a lot of work being done on Arena Commander. One of these big things is the race refactor. So firstly, they're adding in a bunch of the in-universe racetracks into Arena Commander, with a bunch of optimizations and cool UI updates. This also means that they can put stuff into this that they can then translate into the PU, so we could see racetracks like Snake Pit get really good updates inside Arena Commander and then placed into the PU. Because of all this, they've also done a bunch of work on the original 3 racetracks and updating them for this current refactor. They're also prettying up Arena Commander and making the lobby and the game selection and all that sort of stuff look a little bit nicer and just bringing it up to a better standard. One thing they're thinking of doing is bringing in turrets into the Arena Commander maps, specifically Dying Star and the new Jericho Station Arena Commander maps. This is a thing that I would actually be very interested in, because turrets are a thing in the PU, and it's something that you're going to have to deal with. Introducing that into Arena Commander could be quite interesting, but we'll see if they end up doing it. One thing that's kind of weird and I didn't expect is they're going to be putting the soft death feature that we're seeing in 3.18 into Arena Commander, and I don't know why you would necessarily do that unless we're going to be getting more instances of large multiplayer ship style combat. So I'm interested to see where that goes. And probably the best feature that they worked on that they're adding to Arena Commander is a proper kind of kill cam, where when you do get eliminated, it shows you who killed you with a camera. It's a very simple thing that you get in like every other multiplayer game that's ever existed, but when you're in Arena Commander right now, it just shows your wreck exploded, and that's it. So that's going to be kind of cool. I'm excited for that. They also said, finally, work was submitted for an unannounced update to a classic Arena Commander mode, which will be further detailed in the coming months. I have to assume that this is either the Battle Royale or the Squadron Battle mode, and something cool is happening there. I don't know what's going on, but... So some of this we've already seen in 3.18, like the cargo snapping showing a little holographic box to actually show you where the box is going to snap to. They revisited some features, such as dragging bodies into medical beds. They worked on making sure all the new inventory AI was working appropriately, and adding additional features into the inverse kinematic system. For features gameplay, obviously we have hull scraping has been added to 3.18, and so there's a lot of work in regards to that and getting that ready. One of the big things that we saw was the resource management, which is something that got shown to us at SitCon. They've been working on it, and they continue to work on it. It seems as though they've been working a lot on the UI for resource management, so that it has a modern design and has the ability to work with several different functions. And probably one of the biggest things in this entire monthly report is groundwork has begun on vehicle tractor beams. Now this is a really important thing for the proper cargo refactor, so that we're able to move things larger than 1 SCU boxes. This can mean moving stuff for your salvage, maybe dragging ships, whatever. It's one of the things required for the Hull C to work. Apparently, the next step is the tractor beam UI, which means we're probably pretty close. UI is one of the last things they tend to work on before the feature gets implemented. And the biggest thing for me is a continuation of something that they said about 3 monthly reports ago about the Mole and the Prospector. If you do any sort of mining in Star Citizen, you'll know that there isn't really actually much difference between the Mole and the Prospector, especially in terms of the mining heads. So much to the point that the Mole is often pointless. You would just rather have multiple Prospectors. Well, CRG obviously don't want this, and I don't think any of us want that either. We want multiplayer ships to perform better than just an equal amount of single ships. So they said in an earlier monthly report that they were going to work on rebalancing, and we've gotten a little taste of what that might be. The first rebalancing pass was done for all mining heads, sub-items, and gadgets to support the updated approach to resource distribution. This involves new variances for minables to ensure they're distributed in a more controlled fashion throughout Stanton and support future crafting releases. So this could mean many different things. Firstly, one of the more suspected changes is that the size 2 mining lasers that are found on the Mole may actually perform better than the size 1 mining lasers right now, other than just a range increase. But the fact that they're referencing resource distribution is really interesting to me. We might see much larger asteroids with much better resources in them that are way harder to crack. This would incentivize you having multiple lasers over prospectors just going out there and finding what they can. And that little snippet at the end about future crafting releases. 2023 might be the year of crafting for Star Citizen. Another big thing that got worked on at the end of last year that we're going to be seeing this year is missions. We heard during CitizenCon that they want to get some investigation missions through, as well as they've been, looking at other avenues for ways to get people UEC, like how we've seen the racing missions pop up in 3.18. Firstly, in regards to the racing missions, they've actually been watching and making sure that the target times for the racing missions aren't too easy, aren't too hard, by seeing how people in the PTU are actually completing them. That's actually a gripe that I did have originally with the PTU, is the race times were a bit too easy. Now, I know that I do probably a little bit more racing than a lot of people do, but the platinum level for each race was way too easy. It was very, very easy to get. So I am happy that they are looking at those and going to try to make them a little bit harder for people. That way, you do actually feel a little bit of accomplishment as you get up those levels. The missions team also worked a lot on SPK, Security Post Korea. SPK, of course, having a whole new look and feel to it, as well as a Crusader mercenary mission that takes you there to eliminate the players who might be doing some nefarious things. The features vehicles team mostly worked on the transit features, so this is the trams that you see in the major cities. And that makes sense. They need a lot of work in 3.18 because they've been introduced to the PES system rather than whatever system they were on before. It's caused a lot of issues, a lot of stuttering. Sometimes they just start flying into the air. So that makes a lot of sense. And then they worked on a lot of details of thrusters, making sure the designers have the tools they need to make sure the thrusters are making the ships go the way that you want them to go. Graphics and Planetech had a lot of work towards the end of the year, especially with the introduction of the new rivers, as well as more upgrades to the Rastar system, which is what they use to create outposts. And not to mention all of the effects that we get from hull scraping thanks to the introduction of salvage in 3.18. They needed to make sure that they had the damage map done, as well as the correct visuals for both the scraping and the repairing to put back on the hull. Some other cool things that they worked on the last 2 months is asteroids and a localized water simulation model, so that objects can actually interact with the water that we're seeing now with the rivers. The lighting team ended up doing a lot of work in the last 2 months with all of the racetracks for the day and night cycles, and all of the new colonial outposts as well. And with Jumptown version 2.5, 3.0, whatever you want to call it, there was also more lighting had to be done there. The Montreal team spent the last couple of months doing work on in-game branding. Now this involves stuff like how SPK has been given that Crusader security treatment, as well as how with the future new player experience, they're doing some stuff with signage of Area 18, presumably to get people to, you know, go the way that you want them to go. These guys also did a lot of the branding for the Drake IAE, which I thought was amazing, that we got this big splash of color for the event. So from what I'm seeing, they're doing a really good job. These guys are also doing a bunch of work on the Lawville Redux, as well as getting ready for Invictus launch week this year. So if we see branding and visuals as cool as we did for Drake, I'll be pretty happy. With Pyro hopefully releasing by the end of this year, it makes sense that the Locations team continued work on Pyro in the last 2 months. EU Locations 1 spent a lot of that time working on the Pyro Rundown Station, including where we could have possible gameplay loops in there. EU Locations 2, however, spent a lot of their time on cargo elevators for, once again, hopefully a big second cargo refactor to come this year. This is very important for the loading and unloading mechanic that we're supposed to be getting for our cargo. One thing which I hadn't heard a lot about recently was the new law officers, which is supposed to be part of Bounty Hunter version 2. Apparently pre-production has begun. And one of the coolest features to get announced at CitizenCon got some work too, which was the underground bunker facilities, with the team working on that, as well as caves, as well as spicing up Microtech's forest. The narrative team had a ton of releases towards the end of last year, as well as announced that they're going to be doing a different kind of release schedule for a lot of lore posts this year. But one of the big things they worked on, especially for 3.18, was Wildstar Racing, a new in-game group that runs all of these new races. Their backstory is they began as a group of racing enthusiasts who would share vids of themselves racing on their favorite local tracks. Since then, they have grown into a sanctioned racing organization specializing in rally tracks and are widely recognized as an affordable proving ground for amateur racers to work towards competing in higher profile leagues. Narrative also started work on mining and salvage missions, which is not something I expected to see in this monthly report, and of course, investigation missions. I am really excited for this new sort of mission content, especially in regards to mining. Being able to do something that isn't just I'm going to go out with some friends and just mine, actually having a proper goal that I might get reputation for and possibly bonuses for, is exactly what I've been waiting for. So Thank you, narrative team. The Interactables team worked on stalls that can be found inside the pyro stations. And not to mention, deployables. These assets take a long time to figure out and overcome unforeseen challenges that are presented by other teams to ensure that they do not hinder gameplay. They also worked on a fix of the ever-popular coffee machines, as well as an asset that will be integral to bounty hunting. I've got to assume it's going to be handcuffs or something. The tech art animation team first completed a pass on the dirt and wear effects that you see on glass, and the graphics team worked on some fixes for some lighting issues. They gave some new ramp physics to the Drake Corsair, and they made some updates to the Vulture, the Corsair, the Cutter, and the Hull C. A lot of the stuff in this monthly report is really making me think we might actually see the Hull C working in 3.19. And then they just took a bunch of photos of tons of heads. The big thing the online services team did towards the end of the year was this new character repair tool, which is going to be replacing the character reset tool that a lot of us have become used to. I haven't had a chance to check out the character repair tool in the PTU or anything yet, but from what I understand, it's going to be a way to fix any issues you have with your character without completely losing all of your progress, or doing some sort of weird exploit to get infinite money, or move all your items to one location, that sort of thing. The Live Tools team worked a lot with persistent entity streaming, which we have now seen on the 3.18 PTU and has been amazing, and the entity graph. And lastly, the web platform is bringing a bunch of things to the back end, some new things for content creators, the community hub is getting some new updates this year, and the VFX team spent a lot of time working on 3.18 with hull scraping and working on minimizing and organizing their libraries. Overall, a pretty big end to the year. Like I said, a lot of the stuff inside this monthly report is more about what's coming in the future, what we might see in 2023. What we hopefully will see in 3.19. Definitely, we've got some new ships. Cargo Factor 2.0, which is what I'm going to start calling it, looks to be on its way. The Hull C seems to be on its way. The new bunkers are getting done. It's some pretty cool stuff. What do you think about that monthly report? Was it about what you expected them to do November, December? And what are you most excited for this year, especially in regards to all of these? Let me know in the comments below. And make sure to like if you found the video helpful, subscribe if you want to see some more videos about Star Citizen, and maybe join our new org that we've got going, the Croncierge. It's a pretty cool org if you ask me. That's it from me today. That's the monthly report. I'll see you for the next one. Have a good one, guys. Whee! This works would be really funny. I feel as though I've been lied to. Wait! It worked!
Yeah. It does work.
Holy shit!
No!
Yeah.
No, what?